You're listening to Finding My Own Weird, where we'll follow yours truly on a journey to discover my own authentic weird self. I'm your host, Christine Lassiter. Joining me will be amazing guests who found their own formula and are living and thriving as their own wonderfully weird selves. So hold on tight, it's about to get weird. I was in band starting in 6th grade. I played the trumpet. Well, actually, I played the cornet. I remember sitting in the back of my dad's auto parts store, which was formerly a Piggly Wiggly, and I would practice my cornet day after day. And when I would stop, there'd be cheers from the front of the store. Then my dad's smart-ass customers, who just came in to hang out, would yell, "I'm not clapping 'cause it was good, I'm clapping 'cause it's over." Assholes. I did get better, and eventually I was second chair in the top band. Our band director was very known in the band community. Butch Omni taught at Lindale for 24 years. He was instrumental, no pun intended, in starting the National Association of Military Marching Bands. In Lindale, the band was the absolute top notch, winning top awards at every competition we went to the entire time he was a director. And he loved the trumpet section. I think maybe he was a former trumpet player, and he always gave us fun songs that showcased trumpets. We would play things like Hang On Sloopy, Walk Like an Egyptian, I don't know, so many more. And people came to the football games to cheer on the marching band, not so much the football team, which was mediocre at best. But once I got into high school and started theater, I just started not to really care about band as much. I could envision doing something in the realm of acting in the future, but I knew I was not going to be the next Louis Armstrong. Once I got my schedule for senior year, I realized the only way I could get into the next level of theater was at first period, which was the same period as band. I had a choice to make, and for me, it was a pretty easy one. Theater, no question. So I went to the counselor and I made the choice to be in theater and drop band. She told me that I had to go and tell Mr. Omni. Well, I went into the band hall and they were about to start practice. I went up to Mr. Omni and I told him that both theater and band were in the same period and I couldn't be in both. His first reaction was, "Oh, I'm sure we can work something out." But I'd already been ready to be done with band, so I told him I already made the choice and I didn't want to be in band anymore. His face got so red. He started yelling at me in front of the entire band. He yelled to me about commitment and that this was my senior year. And Mr. Omni was a very tiny man, and to add to that, he was hunched over due to having polio when he was a kid. But when he got mad, oh, you were terrified. I walked away so upset that he yelled at me in front of the band, and I was glad I wasn't going to be in that class anymore. It wasn't until many, many years later that I realized why he was so upset. I was actually a pretty good trumpet player, second place in the whole band, and he saw so much potential in me. And he was not just a band director, he was so passionate about band. He knew he was losing someone who was talented, and it hurt him. I ended up seeing him many, many years later when my son was in band. Mr. Omni was retired by then, but he was helping the band before they went to competition. I stopped and I talked to him, and he was pleasant and kind, and I gave him a little hug before I left. I was glad I got to see him and have a nice conversation before he passed away. Thanks, Mr. Omni, for caring enough to yell at me. I understand now. Our next guest went from band nerd to scramble band to free bagpipe lessons. He took the bagpipes and a found unicycle and merged the two into more than a weird character, but a mascot for Keep Portland Weird. Please welcome Brian Kidd, aka the Unipiper. Hi, Brian. Thanks so much for being here today.
Hey, thank you. Nice to meet you, Christine.
Nice to meet you too. I feel like I've known you for a long time now because when I made the decision that I was going to move to Portland, my youngest daughter and I, she was 14 at the time, we started watching videos of Portland things, Weird Portland. And you can't pull up Weird Portland without seeing the Unipiper.
Yes.
So we would watch videos of you, soapbox derby, all sorts of things that were going on in Portland. And so, yeah, we've been following you for probably about 6 or 7 years.
Well, it's nice to be sitting here face to face then.
Right. People that have been listening for a while know that this is not about the destination. It's about the journey.
how the people that I bring on got to where they are, how they started to figure out their true authentic self. So we're going to kind of start from the beginning. Where did you grow up?
I grew up in a small town called Colonial Heights, Virginia, just south of Richmond.
Yeah. So what was your family life like?
I want to say it was generally a typical 90s suburban, everything you would think of. I would ride my bikes with my friends. We'd go off and build forts in the woods, and normal is a good word.
Right, right,
And I don't think that it was bad in any way. It was great. I have no complaints.
right. Yeah. So just that simplified life of small town living.
It was, yeah. It was a good place to start my life journey.
That's good. Did you stay there like your whole school career?
Through high school, yeah. I'd say along the way, I got interested into things that would be relevant in the rest of my life. I was in the marching band,
Oh, yes.
played trumpets.
You know what? Common thread.
Yeah.
Trumpets.
All right.
There's this like 4 between me and
Wow.
Poison Waters, you, and then there was another one. Yeah.
At the time, it was the loudest instrument available, so that's what I gravitated towards. I'm naturally an introvert, so I think I go towards the things that give me a louder voice that I could have by myself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Um,
in Lindale, where I'm from, the marching band is, even though Texas is known for their Friday night lights, Friday night football, in our little town, the marching band was the shit. We were known all around.
I mean, that's where I came from too. Like we took marching band super seriously, and we went to all the competitions, and we were consistently winning first place, and our football team wasn't anything to speak of.
Yeah, neither
it,
was
it was all the people were there for the marching band.
I think maybe that's why the marching bands were so big, because the football was not as great, not as good.
Yeah, no, it introduced me into being able to put a lot of effort into something and then really take pride in that.
Oh, yeah. Yeah. So you did marching band. Were there any other hobbies that you did in high school? Any other special curricular things?
A marching band, and I was a Boy Scout. Those were my activities.
Did
Yeah.
you make it to Eagle?
I did. Yep.
You seem like you would be an Eagle Scout. You'd get all the way up there, very dedicated.
Yes. I am very type A. If there's a task with a path to get there, I just follow the directions until I get bored with it, and that's when I veer off the path.
Were you a good student?
I was, yeah, like generally straight A's and 4.0 GPA and everything, and then went off to college to study marine biology.
Marine biology. So is that what you wanted to be when you grew up, as a marine biologist?
Not necessarily. I didn't have a life plan or anything. I think that was both good and bad, because I was kind of left to my own devices to figure out where I was headed, and I had no clue. So I just went the path of the things that were most interesting to me. And I always liked sea life and the ocean and sea creatures and things. So that's where I pointed my path, see where it led. And somehow I'm here sitting in front of you today.
Well, we were just talking about your day job. You're not a marine biologist.
No.
So where did that change?
So out of college, my first job I got was working at a wildlife refuge in coastal North Carolina. And I was do-all intern, and I got to participate in the sea turtle habitat monitoring program, where we would spend the night on the beach with flashlights over these sea turtle nests for them they would call boil, when the sea turtles would hatch and they would bubble up to the surface of the
There
sand.
would just be bukus, right?
Yeah. There's hundreds of these eggs in the nest, and we would set out little fences around the nest that created a path so we could get as many of them into the ocean as we could. I mean, it was a really cool experience. And then dead sharks and other carcasses would wash up on the beach. We had collaborations with different research institutes, and there was like one program that needed the left eyeball of any shark that would wash up on the beach. So
That's a very specific.
yeah.
What are that?
I don't know.
Not the right eyeball.
Yeah, no, the left.
No, that's. So what are they? You don't know what they.
I don't remember what they were using those eyeballs to look at.
Wow. Now I need to go and look up why they would just need one side.
Right. See if there's a black market for left shark eyes.
It's so weird. Yeah. That seemed like it was pretty interesting.
It
So,
was interesting. So I did that. It did not pay very well. It was, and I did it essentially for the term of 2 internships. So it was like a 6-month thing, and I ended up doing it for like a year, just because it was so fun, but it wasn't a long-term career path. I think I was getting like $50 a week and free housing at least. Yes. My nearest neighbor, though, was 7 miles away.
Oh,
So it was a lot of quiet time and solitude. But
a lot of reading.
yes, a lot of reading, a lot of walks and runs on the beach, and found lots of cool seashells.
Oh, I bet.
It was great. It was great. I had a fantastic experience. But from there, well, I guess we kind of skipped over where both the bagpipes and the unicycle came in.
Okay, because it was early on.
It was earlier. Yeah, I was in
Yeah.
college
Yeah.
when I started on both of those. So joined the University of Virginia pep band out of high school. So it was pretty much the only, at the time, the University of Virginia did not have a marching band. They had what is called a scramble band. If you ever heard of a scramble band?
I mean, is it where they just run into a formation?
It's kind of the antithesis of a marching band in many ways. So a lot of the Ivy League schools, primarily in Stanford as well, instead of a marching band, they have a scramble band. And so they take in everything that the marching bands do and kind of mock it and satirize it for humor.
Oh, yeah. Our band would have been highly offended by that.
Yes. And it was the complete opposite of what I had been trained to do in marching band.
Straight lines. You have
Yes.
to pivot. Yeah.
And so I didn't know how to handle it at first. I didn't have the option. So it was like, if I wanted to keep playing trumpet and stuff, like that was the only option. So I fell in with that. And at first I didn't know what to make of it, because all of a sudden, here's people acting crazy and doing wild things and drinking. And I'm just like, what is going on?
There's no chaos in marching band.
Right. And eventually, though, within a couple months, it clicked for me. And I was like, I think these are actually my people.
Oh, really?
Yeah. And so that first year, I actually, and I got to be the announcer of the pep band. So these football games with 50,000 people in the stands, I got to go up and announce the band as they went on to the field. And basically, we told jokes, topical humor, political stuff. And it was edgy, too.
Right.
And to the point, when I started, this was an official university sanctioned, but student run organization. And by the end of my 4 years at school there, they had axed the program entirely. And they had gotten some number of millions of dollars in order to start an actual, quote, proper marching band.
Right.
And so there was a lot of resentment there.
Right.
And there were protests involved. But by this point, I was on the board of the leadership in the pep band. And the drama was quite high. And for a while there, I was on the nightly news a couple times a week. There was always something new going on with the band. And the whole situation, it was absolutely not fair how they treated. And the pep band was a source of pride for the university and a lot of the students, because it was so unique. And it really gave students something to really show their individuality.
Mm-hmm.
So
Can't have any of that.
In the place of a uniform, we wore vests, but we were to decorate and cover the vest any way that we wanted. But some of the jokes that we were telling were politically incorrect, maybe. And
Right.
we actually ended up getting banned from the state of West Virginia. My third year, we performed at one of the bowl games when it was the University of Virginia versus the West Virginia Mountaineers. And we were in the state of West Virginia. The governor of the state was in attendance. And it wasn't even that. We just basically ribbed on the West Virginians being hillbillies and portrayed them in our skit as, being barefoot. And, it was all in good fun.
Sure.
But the office of the governor issued a decree banning our band from ever returning to. And that was sort of the straw that broke the camel's back. And that led to the downfall.
Well, I'm just so surprised they knew how to write a decree.
I'm going to use that one later.
And now a word from our sponsor, me. As a mortgage broker, why don't I ever talk about rates or pricing in my ads? The fact is, rates can change on a dime, and by the time that I release this, or even by the time you listen to it, rates could be much higher or much lower than they were as of this recording. As for pricing, there are so many factors that go into pricing: your credit score, how much money you put down. There's even talk of your debt to income affecting your pricing. If you were thinking of buying a house, the only real way to know these details is to get pre qualified. Once you find a house you love, we'll look at the rates and we'll determine when to lock your loan. The key is to get pre qualified with your own accurate, verified information so that you know upfront what you can afford comfortably and use that information when looking for a home. And then I'll look to see which lender would work best for your situation, the one that has the best price, the easiest to work with, etc. So to talk to me about a mortgage in Oregon or Washington, please reach out at Christine at tworiversmtg.com. That's CHRISTINE at TWORIVERSMTG.com. NMLS 2248608. And now back to your program.
It was during this time that I both started unicycling and bagpiping.
I had read, and I'm sure you're going to hit on this. One of those was just a found object, right?
Correct.
Yeah, go ahead.
It was a unicycle, and we were cleaning out we had a storage locker that was provided by the university for the pep band. And once we kind of got the axe, they took away our storage locker. And so we had to clean it out, and we were throwing all this stuff into a dumpster, and there was a unicycle in the dumpster.
So it wasn't you. It's not like you were like, you know what I want to learn how to do? I want to learn how to unicycle. It was like, hey, look at this thing. I wonder if I can learn how to ride this.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. The opportunity just kind of fell into my lap, and I was like, yeah, that no one else wanted it. And I was like, it'd kind of be fun to see if I could figure out how to ride this.
Was it hard at first?
It was, especially because the unicycle I found was kind of shit.
Yeah, was it?
I mean, there's probably a reason it was in the dumpster.
Yeah,
but I was still able to ride it after about 3 weeks, in about 3 weeks' time. But prior to the discovery of that unicycle, I was already taking weekly bagpipe lessons.
So what? Okay, you did, that was a choice then.
That was a choice.
That was a choice to say, of all the instruments, I've mastered the trumpet.
But again, I didn't seek it out. I saw a flyer at the student center that said free bagpipe lessons.
And they were free. That was just somebody who's like, I have this bagpipe. I have 2 bagpipes. I just want to give people lessons.
Not exactly. It was the local sheriff's pipe band for the town, for the county, actually. And so they, in order to recruit new members, they would offer these weekly lessons to anybody interested in coming to check out the pipes. And at the time, I just thought bagpipes, I saw that free bagpipe lessons. I was like, that would be fun in the pep band, you know?
Right. I mean, actually, it would have been great. Did you even get a chance to?
Barely.
Oh.
Yeah. They became relevant in the protest I mentioned.
So you actually got good at the bagpipes. That's very cool.
Yeah. I was fortunate that the folks in the pipe band that I was learning from were like grade 1 world-class pipers. I was taking this seriously, and I wasn't just doing this. Well, I was doing it as a joke, but at the same time,
Right.
I wanted to seriously learn to play the bagpipes.
Right. I think that for it to be a good joke, you have to get skilled at it, right?
Sure, of course.
Yeah.
It's like Weird Al wouldn't be taken seriously if he wasn't good at what he was doing.
Right.
Yeah.
No, he's very talented and also very funny and weird.
Yeah. So, that's where the bagpipes came in, and I stuck with that, and I actually really enjoyed the pipes. And so by the time I left college, I was able to ride the unicycle and play the bagpipes, but the thought to do them together hadn't even really crossed my mind yet.
Right. So after you left college, I mean, what was your plan after that?
Yeah, like I said, I didn't really have the plan. I found that internship with the wildlife refuge, and it sounded a lot of fun. It was. And like I said, I did that for a year and then moved on to the next thing, which was working nearby, moved from the wildlife refuge to the local aquarium.
Okay.
And that was a lot of fun as well. I was an educator there, and I did all of the animal presentations and walk around and tell people about what they're looking at. And I got to dive in the shark tank and clean the shark tank, talk to the audience from the shark tank.
Did you have good life insurance there?
I think so. The only animal that injured me there was I was doing a reptile presentation, and we had corn snakes that we'd bring out and let the kids touch with 2 fingers. And
Yeah.
I'm holding the snake, and I look down and I see that this baby corn snake just has its jaw clenched around my little finger. And I'm trying not to freak out because I really don't like snakes.
Oh, yeah.
And so it was kind of funny that I was doing this program where I'm holding snakes. But anyways, I look down and like my worst fear is to like get bit by a snake. And this is
Sure.
happening in front of an audience of children. And I just kind of like turn my back to the crowd and just flick my finger. And the snake, I was able to flick it off of my finger and put it back in its cage and kind of turn around. And I just kind of held my finger so people could see that it was bleeding. And
In panic.
I got
Panic
through it.
everybody.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And I mean, and they're not poisonous, but
No.
it's still freaky.
Yeah, it's totally. But again, that was a really fun job. And I looked into free housing there because the aquarium itself owned a row of cottages on the beach. And so I got to live in one of those cottages and kind of maintain the grounds there. And so it was a great living situation. Again, not long term.
Right.
But that was the time when I realized that I could be playing the bagpipes and riding the unicycle at the same time.
So it just came to you like you've got these two weird talents.
Kind of. There were other employees living in some of the other cottages there, and we would just, hang out and drink in the evenings.
Right.
And they knew that I had a unicycle, and they knew that I also played the bag. And somebody was just like, "Hey, can you do them together?" I mean, yeah, we were definitely drinking, and by this point, I had toyed with the idea of would it be possible, and I was like, well, let me just try. And so it like immediately it worked super well, and I was like, oh, well, this is fun. And so I started just practicing at it, and then I would just kind of ride up and down the road, down the sidewalk. And before long, like within a week, every single night, I was going down the beach road past all these, condos, and it's very tourist area. So high turnover of people.
Yeah.
As I would do this, people would come out on their balconies and stuff and call me over and give me food and throw money at me.
You're like, heck yeah.
And I quickly was making more money doing that than I was working at the aquarium.
Wow.
Yeah.
Did they ever use you as like part of a show at the aquarium?
No, never did anything officially at the aquarium.
Well, they missed out on their chance for some really cool stuff there.
No, but so I got to the end of the season there. The aquarium was open year round, but it definitely tapered off in the winter months. And it was kind of, all right, what I had asked myself, what was next in life? And a couple of my roommates from college were from Portland, and they just always talked about how cool of a place Portland was.
Right.
And it was honestly being around so many tourists and people from all sorts of across the country who were coming to vacation there in the Outer Banks, and talking to them and learning about different parts of the country. And I really realized that I really need to just get out. There's a lot more out there that I need to see.
Sure.
And knowing that I wanted to go west and see the West Coast, and then what little information I had on Portland, my knowledge was just that it was a cool place.
Right.
But that was enough for me to point the compass needle to Portland and want to check it out. So I did. I decided to just move to Portland, sight unseen. I wasn't completely crazy. I did think that I was going to have a job lined up coming out here. So I had actually applied for a job as an educator at OMSI.
Okay.
And I had like 3 interviews and was in the final round, and it was looking really promising. And I was, I think in Colorado, I was making the drive. It was planned to be a couple weeks, taking the time to enjoy the journey out here. And I think I was in Colorado when I found out I did not get the job. So,
Oh, no.
yeah. So then by the time I got here, I did not have a job, and then had to figure out what to do then.
Did you stay with friends at first when you got here?
No. That's another funny story. I also had a place lined up. It was an apartment near PSU campus, and that fell apart also on the journey over. So I think I actually found like a last minute place on Craigslist in Milwaukee, I think.
Oh, yeah.
And it was there for, I don't know, a month, 2 months before I ended up, that was enough time to get my bearings and find out where do I actually want to live here in Portland. And then I moved to 45th in Belmont, right across the street from the Horse Brass. And that was, I miss living there.
Yeah, I mean, like
My liver doesn't, but...
like I told you before we got started, I mean, my first stay here was on Belmont.
Yeah.
Right there, speakeasies and drinking and all that too. So yeah, that was a cool area.
Yep. No. So, I mean, I had my bagpipes and my unicycle with me, and I had the need to find a job, and that's what I was armed with, and I used them both. I found a job within a couple months, and it's actually the same company, same job. I've moved with the same company though, but it's been a fantastic journey in that world. And at the same time, I started to Unipipe at the Portland State Farmers Market was where I kind of started performing here and build a name and a reputation for myself. And so my day job career took off in one direction, and then the Unipiper took off in another. And that's what I've been doing ever since.
Yeah. So you just decided at the farmer's market, hop on your unicycle. Now, at that point, was it just the unicycle and the bagpipes without the other? Because you're a whole package.
That's right. There wasn't even a kilt, I don't think, at that point.
It would be enough to see somebody riding a unicycle playing the bagpipes. That would be enough of a thing to draw attention. So when did it convert to the kilt and to the helmet? And
it was an evolution. A lot of folks ask me, like, how did you ever come up with this idea?
Right.
And like, I don't think any of it was an idea. It just, it fell into my lap. But, eventually I, started wearing a kilt, and then being a lifelong Star Wars fan, I learned to play Star Wars on the bagpipes, and then it just, made sense to add a Darth Vader mask and then a Darth Vader costume. And then eventually I was performing one time, and afterwards somebody came up to me and said that, what you're doing, wow, that's really impressive and everything, but where's the fire? And that was where the idea for adding fire came from.
Well, it's funny because you've become such an icon, and I've been here for a while now. I was watching something on YouTube. I don't even remember what it was. And I saw this guy wearing a Darth Vader shirt. Like it had the Darth Vader mask on it. And I was like, oh my God, is he wearing a Unipiper shirt? Like for a minute there, my brain forgot, hey, there was Darth Vader, what happened before the Unipiper did.
Yeah.
That's not it. I felt so dumb afterwards. Like I had like this moment, but it was the first thing that came to my mind was you, not.
Well, it's funny. At about, I think, age 2, I was walking through a Fred Meyer with my daughter, and she sees a Darth Vader toy on the shelves, and she points at it, and she's like, "Daddy." It's like, yeah, you're right in more than one way.
Right. I am your father. Now, does the kilt have any? Are you Scottish? Does it have any?
No.
It just knows. It's just cool. It's just a cool thing.
I mean, it goes with the bagpipes.
Right. Well, no, I think that's awesome. So it started out being just kind of like a fun thing to do, maybe get a little extra money, but it has grown tremendously.
Oh yeah, it has grown way more than the sum of its parts, myself included as a part.
Yes.
I feel like, I don't have full ownership of it anymore. It's this is something that the citizens of Portland have claim to at this point.
You're the mascot of Portland now, and especially the Keep Portland Weird. I was reading that you are kind of the start of that bringing that in more light. So tell me a little bit about that.
Sure. So history on Keep Portland Weird. So as folks may or may not know, we did quote unquote steal it. I'll say borrow. We borrowed it from Austin, Texas, where it was Keep Austin. You probably know coming from Texas.
Yeah. I mean, my son lives in Austin, and I will tell you the gentrification there is pretty rampant. It's weirder here now.
Sure. And so this was back in, I want to say it was maybe 2003-ish, that the owner of Music Millennium, Terry Courier, I think he knew someone who started the saying, Keep Boston Weird. And at that time, his focus was on keeping record stores relevant, and he was having the influence of big box stores and Barnes & Noble and things like that. So he was trying to make a push for small local businesses and shopping local. Mm-hmm. And his original thought was Keep Portland Weird, shop local. And that's what the original bumper stickers said. They said, Keep Portland Weird, shop local. I think when it really took off was when he took out a full page ad in the Willamette Week that just said, keep Portland weird. And it kind of clicked with the city. And so that's when the phrase kind of caught on. And it's not that it wasn't like at that moment that was when Portland became weird. It was just giving sort of a name and a label to something that had always existed.
Right.
And, we're talking always existed going back to like the 1800s.
Yeah.
Portland has always attracted people for certain reasons. And, a lot of times it's been the misfits and outcasts, for better or for worse.
Right.
Anyways, so fast forward a few years, 2007 when I come along, and I don't think I had heard even of Keep Portland Weird before I moved here. But, once I did move here and I started seeing the bumper stickers around and I saw the mural and everything, I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. They get it. And so I just seen that kind of reinforced and felt like it gave me permission to really go for, doing the Unipiper.
Right.
And I think that at that time also was when Portland itself was kind of rising in the public's eye nationwide in terms of, the micro brew scene, food world. And Portland, was just becoming a hip city that people were talking about. And as people learn more about Portland, Keep Portland Weird was one of the things that would come up. And it was just kind of the right thing at the right time when I started. I think it was when I first added the Darth Vader helmet and the flames. And I filmed a video in front of the Keep Portland Weird mural.
Right.
And that just, blew up like wildfire. And I think it was that people kept asking like, what is Keep Portland Weird? And that just kind of gave it a label and something that people could point to and be like that.
Right.
So there were several things, big steps in my journey. And that was certainly one of them right there. And so it's always been near and dear to my heart how Portland has appreciated the wacky, quirky, individualistic side of people's personalities and sort of encouraged that and rewarded that. So it's that aspect of Portland has always been absolutely near and dear to my heart. It's part of what made me fall in love with the city. And what made me want to stay here, because when I moved here, absolutely had no intention of like making this my permanent home, but Portland made it so that I could not leave.
Right.
And so ever since that time, for a while, I was doing my own thing, but I always felt like I was part of something bigger and I wanted to be more involved with this whole movement on a larger scale. And it was after post Portlandia, when Portland really started to explode and grow at a rate larger than it had ever seen before, to the point where I don't know that Portland really knew how to handle that growth and that fame that was coming from all of this attention.
Do you think that it came from that people started realizing outside of Portland because of Portlandia?
I mean, absolutely.
That they're like, oh, that might be my place.
There were many reasons, and that was certainly a big one. Yes. We could probably have a whole separate podcast discussion about was Portlandia a net good or bad for the city. Not to get into it too much right now, but
we'll make that part 2.
Exactly. That said, I started to see change, and not in the good kind. And a lot of people were seeing me as a de facto leader of something that did not formally exist.
Mm-hmm.
And I was really, people would tell me that like I was the reason that they moved to Portland. And like that just made me feel strange. People would also tell me how much they love what Portland has going on and that they saw the same thing in other places like San Francisco and Austin, and they've seen how those places are no longer what they once were. And I just did not want to see that happen to Portland. And I had always been just kind of waiting to join this movement that wasn't happening in the way that I felt it needed to happen at that time. So that's when I just decided I was going to have to try something myself or forever regret not doing that. And it took a while to get it off the ground, but in late 2018 is when I finally officially formed Weird Portland United as a 501c3 nonprofit dedicated to keeping Portland weird.
Right.
And that has since then, of course, the pandemic has made things more difficult in that respect and changed sort of the plan that we had going on. But that's where most of my efforts related to my antics as the Unipiper are focused now, and is uniting the weird and preventing its eradication in Portland.
Well, so how do y'all do that?
Good question. You got some answers for me?
Maybe. I'm great at marketing and all that other stuff. So
Well, then we might have to talk then. Yeah, I mean, the organization itself, our mission is sort of three-pronged. It's looking back and celebrating what we love. It's doing things in the present, and it's finding the next generation of weird and making sure that Portland remains a place where, let's say, the next Unipiper could still have a chance to be successful and recognized for doing whatever that thing is.
Right. Right. Well, I told you that we were watching videos of weird Portland things before we ever even moved up here. And the weird is what made me come. That freedom of people being just so uniquely themselves in whatever form that looks like. And it looks like a lot of forms here. It's what made me say immediately, I'm moving to Portland. And I would be crushed because I moved over 2,000 miles, in my mid 40s to move here because of that joy that brought me.
Right.
And I think it is important. And as I've been doing these interviews, the amount of good that the weird people of Portland are doing, the fundraisers, bringing smiles in times that have been awful for the whole country, it's important. I think it's not just being silly. People think it's just like, that they're just being silly. They don't even know that there's so much more to it than that. So yeah, we have to keep it. We have to keep it and grow it.
We do. I think part of the challenge right now is, I would say up until about 2012 or so, people were moving to Portland. I'm making some generalizations here, so of course that's not going to hold true in every case. But Portland was attracting people of a certain mindset for a certain reason, and people were choosing Portland as a destination to move. And then there was a huge shift in the tech industry, and a lot of companies were opening offices here, and there was a huge influx of new people to Portland in the wake of Portlandia. And they were coming to Portland not necessarily as a choice, but because it was just where their job was.
Right.
And so the reasons that people were coming here were changing. And so a lot of people were just easily dismissive of all of those people, which I think is the absolute wrong way of looking at it. Instead, people should see that as an opportunity to get these people excited about the place that they live and show them why we here love it.
Right.
And get them on board. And I think that's where we collectively have failed to a certain extent. And so that's part of the efforts of the organization is raising awareness of all the cool stuff and cool people here.
And I didn't even know. I mean, I'm learning every day more and more people. There's a lot of them you're just going to come across by chance. I mean, I'm actively seeking them out, and I'm pulling away layers like, I meet, this person. Well, then they connect me with this person, and I'm actively seeking them out. And I would love to see even more visibility.
Right.
For these folks. So when Brent, the Portland Slee Stack, was here, he stood on the corner here, and this is in downtown Gresham. So I think they see a little bit less than like downtown Portland sees of the weird. And so he's in full Slee Stack costume, and people were going crazy. They loved it. Loved it. And, and I was standing there next to him, and I was having the time of my life with him. And I'm just, just standing there with him. But just to see that joy, the kids really lit up, little old ladies lit up. It was, just a universal thing. And to be able to see more and more of that, I think our community needs it. And now even more than when I first moved here.
Exactly. Yeah. The challenge has increased exponentially for different reasons now.
Mhm.
So we have to figure out how to respond to these new challenges.
Mhm.
And the strategy is going to be different now. Previously, you know, we at least had people downtown, and the challenge was just reaching them and making sure that people and businesses that were coming downtown weren't just going to steamroll everything that was already down there.
Right.
But now our challenge is just getting people back downtown, period.
Right. Right. Exactly. You know, and I mean, and it's happening slowly, but it's very slow.
Yeah.
You know, and there's unique challenges even with that. So, but I think that with that initiative that you have going on, and as more people become aware of it, I think it has the potential to do just amazing things here. I was reading an article the other day about a city in Florida, a little town in Florida, where circus performers go to retire.
Oh, yeah. I've heard about this
Yeah.
place.
And I thought about that concept, about how interesting that is. And as we're talking here, I can relate that to like if this is the destination for where people who are very interesting, weird, creative, and have that desire to put that out in the world, that this is not only can encourage it with the people that are here, but let other people who don't feel comfortable doing that where they are. Because where I come from, you're just going to get looked at really weird. It's not going to be like, this
Right.
is the coolest thing we ever saw. It's going
Right.
to be like, why is there a mermaid in my... And there'll be a few people who can appreciate it, but as a whole, people are going to be like, that's weird in a negative light.
Sure.
So I want to see this just explode. There's so many. I'll never run out of content.
Yes.
Even just here in Portland. I mean, I'm not just here in Portland. I've got people that are going to be coming on from all different places, but just here in Portland, I haven't even scratched the surface yet. And there are just bukus.
It is a very fun rabbit hole to go down.
Right? Do you get any negative feedback as the Unipiper or as the weird ambassador?
No,
That's awesome.
It's been amazing. Like, it's just non-existent. I mean, there's the usual, you know, Facebook comments,
Oh.
but talking being here in Portland and like the real, the real interactions, like
Right.
the negativity is non-existent.
That's what I feel here. You know, that's what I feel is that acceptance, and not only acceptance, but as celebration. I think it's really cool. So what are some of the things that you have coming up that people can come out and see, can be involved in?
So, as you are aware, we just launched the Darcel Blonde IPA. What a special evening that was.
Yeah, you and I were both there last Wednesday, not this past Wednesday, but the Wednesday before. And as of this recording, Darcel passed away a couple of days ago.
Yeah.
Darcel looked stunning.
Oh, yeah.
Stunning.
And she was so excited about this whole project, and like everything was just leading up to that night because she hadn't been performing in a few months, I think.
Yeah.
And that was her like return to the stage. And we were able to do that. And she had such a blast, and she did 2 songs for us.
She did. I got teary
And
when she sang The Rose. I was
I
like, oh
know.
my God.
So we had that incredibly magical night, and now we have this beer that we can all drink to remember Darcel.
You could tell she was so proud. She
Oh,
was.
yeah.
So, it was funny when I got my picture with her. And she had the beer in her hand. She goes, "Now this is the most important thing." And she was making sure that the label was out.
I know.
She was on it. She's
Yep.
like, "No, forget all this other stuff. We better show
Yeah,
my beer."
her face on a bottle, like
Oh.
that's all she wanted.
Well, and I had worked in senior healthcare for 13 years. And so to see somebody of Darcel's age,
That animated.
performing, and you talk about being your true authentic self. I know that Walter Cole was in the military and all these other things, but Darcel,
Right. That's
oh my gosh. I took my mom to see him last year, when my conservative East Texas mom, and she had the time of her life. It was so fun. And the country's going crazy and freaking out about like drag queens.
right.
I'm like, Have you ever been to a show? Because it's a hoot.
Right.
It's a freaking blast.
Yeah. We talk about drag queens all the time here in Portland, but like I said at the event, for the right reasons.
Right. Yeah. It's just joy, just pure joy.
Mm-hmm. So yeah, I bring that up because her beer is part of our ongoing beer collaboration that we have with Gigantic Brewing in town.
Uh-huh.
And the proceeds from the sale of these beers go to fund Weird Portland United. So that's a really easy way that folks can get involved and support what we have going on.
Darcel's was the fourth in the series,
The fourth
right?
in the series,
So
yep.
what were the other ones?
The first one was Unipiper Hazy IPA.
Shocker.
Yeah. Craft beer is definitely a passion of mine as well. I've been a home brewer for a number of years, and my history with beer collaborations goes way back. I did several beers with back in the day, and then I did a beer launch with Portland Brewing, and that was how we kickstarted Weird Portland United, is through the first Unipiper beer with Portland Brewing, and then they unfortunately had to shut down during the pandemic, but Gigantic Brewing has now stepped up and is carrying on this beer collaboration. And so we relaunched the Unipiper Hazy IPA, and then we did the Portland Adult Soapbox Derby Summer Ale.
What a blast that is, too.
Yep. And the label on that beer was in 3D. So we had 3D glasses next to the bottles on the shelves there. You could see the cars coming at you. And then most recent one before Darcel was Mike Bennett's Day Off IPA. And then now we have Darcel. And then I think we're going to see a return with the Unipiper next, because that one was so well received. The sales channels are kind of demanding it come back. And then we don't think we're quite ready to announce it, but we have one planned, a brand new one beyond that we're really excited for too.
Very cool.
Yep.
Yeah. So that's one project. I know that you've been involved with a lot of projects lately.
That's one project. Yeah. So that's how we're getting some money right now is through beer, which I think is great because it kind of ties back into the Unipiper of me just combining my interest. So here I am again, combining my love of beer with this nonprofit that I'm running and making it work together.
Well, and with Portland being kind of known for all of its little microbreweries and stuff, I mean, that fits perfectly as well.
Yep. And so the big initiative that we're working on right now is the Weird Portland Hall of Fame, which is a thing that exists. And it was launched at our first annual Weird Portland Gala, which happened back in 2019, right before the pandemic. And Darcel, I'm happy to report, was among our first inaugural round of inductees into the Hall of Fame, and he was able to accept the award. And so he was very excited to already be a part of that. And now we are building out the Weird Portland Hall of Fame to be a physical space inside of another beloved Weird Portland institution, the Peculiarium.
Okay, yeah. Yeah, Brent's got one of his suits there, the Portland Sleeve Stack there. There's a lot of stuff going on in there.
Yep.
That's awesome. So it's going to have just kind of memorabilia.
Yeah, we're going to have a display case with rotating displays of highlighting different fun things that we want people to see. And we're also working with an artist named Mark Schneider, who is the creative director of the Enchanted Forest.
Oh, yeah.
And
the amusement park.
Yes.
We haven't been there yet. I got to go.
Oh, it is. Absolutely. It's a must. Anyways, Mark is a fantastic, incredibly talented artist, mixed media, sculpture, painting, everything. And he's actually the first person outside of the original Tofty family who owns the Enchanted Forest to work. Because I think Roger Tofty, who is 92 years old himself, who still walks around the park with a hammer and fixes things. But they've brought on Mark now to help fix things in the park and add new elements and things. Anyways, he is going to be designing an interactive 3D mural representing Weird Portland.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So that's going to be part of the exhibit inside the Peculiarium.
Oh, I love that so much. I'm an artist too. And
oh, cool.
Yeah, I mean, all the murals in Portland, but yeah, to have one dedicated to the weird is spot on.
Yeah. Beyond that, I've got my existing Unipiper commitments. I have my own podcast.
What's the name of your podcast?
It's called Portland at the Movies, and we are going through and watching every single movie filmed in Portland, particularly the bad ones
Yeah.
and the obscure ones. And it's a fascinating rabbit hole.
Is it done in like a
Mystery Science Theater
yes, yes, yes,
3000.
yes, yes. Is it done in that vein?
Sort of. It's not watching the movies in real time with the audience,
Right.
but we watch them beforehand and then
Um,
talk about the locations that we see and how Portland is portrayed. And we try and track down any interesting stories or maybe any folks that were involved with the productions. And we're uncovering just some real gems. Some of them are just so incredibly weird, strange, bad. Again, I could give you a 2-hour lecture on like movies you have to see to believe that were filmed in Portland.
Yeah, we'll have that talk after this. I definitely are going to want all those.
So, yeah, and that's pretty much all the time that I have in my life right now, and being a father too.
Oh, no. There's a little movie premiere coming out talking about movies that I cannot wait to see. You were involved in this little short 9-minute film.
This is true. Yeah. I haven't seen the finished product myself yet. And unfortunately, I'm going to be out of the country on the premiere. So I'm going to have to catch it online when it makes its debut there. But yeah, Slee Stack's Big Adventure, which is a really neat project that, Brent pulled together last year and got a whole bunch of our weird community together to recreate the tequila bar dance scene from Pee-wee's Big Adventure.
Right.
And it was so much fun to film. It was like a very strange, surreal family reunion, the filming.
It was supposed to happen last month, and then we got dumped with tons of snow. And so it got rescheduled for April 16th at the Star Theater. And I know that he could not be more excited.
Yeah.
But it is a whole collection of so many of the weird Portland folks. I have the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence. They're in it.
Mm-hmm.
You're in it. So many. And it's going to be a who's who of
It will,
weird Portland. And they,
the way that I envision it, it's going to be like watching Star Wars for the first time and seeing the cantina bar scene and seeing all these characters. It's going to be like that. You're going to see all these people in the background and be like, oh my God, look at that. Look at that.
Well, I know that they're going to be streaming it live too. Are you going to try to watch it live?
I'm going to try.
I think they're also going to be showcasing other films that some of the locals have done too. So it's going to be a whole evening of just some really cool stuff.
Yeah.
And I know that Brent's looking forward to making more interesting things, which he wants to incorporate more weird Portland in that as well. Even more opportunities for that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
It's a bummer that you're going to be out of town for that. It sounds like you've got a ton of things. How do you think people can continue to support Weird Portland United?
We are looking for people with we're a volunteer-run organization,
right?
And we're small, but we have a lot of passion. And most of our existing board of directors are tapped in terms of capacity just to carry on with the things that we have running, just to keep the organization going and running the beer project and managing the mural project. We have an endless list of projects we would love to see come into fruition. So if keeping Portland weird is important to you, we would love to work with some more folks and spread out this workload and just do more awesome, weird things for the good of everyone. So we're always looking for people to reach out and say, hey, I'd love to get more involved. What do you need help with? This is what I can bring to the table. We just want to hear from those people if this idea strikes a chord with you.
Oh, yeah.
And you can do that. Probably email is the best way. Our email is weirdportlandunited@gmail.com.
And I'm going to have a link to all the ways that people can follow you, how they can get involved with Weird Portland United. Those will be links in the description and everything. So they're going to be able to hop on there and hopefully I've been on many committees. I know that it all falls to a few.
Yes, that's it.
Is there any other ways that people can give financially or?
Sure. Yeah. We have many opportunities for sponsorships. We have business level sponsorships. If you want to get involved like that, you can donate as an individual and become an official. If you don't qualify as weird yourself, that's no problem. We'll gladly.
Yes, you do.
Yes.
It's in there.
If you're in Portland, of course you do. But you can donate on the website too.
Awesome. Well, awesome. Is there anything else that you want us to know about that's coming up, or any other projects that people should be aware of?
Just follow me on social media. I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, all the things at the Unipiper. So yeah, I'll just continue sharing my love for Portland, and I'd love to have you along for the journey.
And as the weather hopefully will start to get really nice. It was really nice last week, and then it snowed, and who knows. But if you just listen, you'll hear the bagpipes coming down the street.
That's right.
And at every holiday, I see you dressed up every holiday across the bridge, at Burnside, and yeah, you're pretty much everywhere. So,
As much as one person can be.
well, it's super cool. Thank you so much for being here, and we're gonna keep working on keeping Portland as weird as we possibly can.
Yay.
All right.
Thank you.
Thanks so much.
All right.
You know, Brian didn't start out thinking he would expand a movement and lead the weird in Portland, but he saw the need to keep that weird alive. His passion for the community and for all things interesting and weird has helped nurture and cultivate more weird. And with the Weird Portland United, his goal is to grow the weird for generations to come. Thanks again to Brian Kidd, the Unipiper. If you'd like to join Weird Portland United, or would like to follow the Unipiper in all his awesome weird adventures, follow the links below. We would also like to thank our sponsor, Christine Lassiter, Two Rivers Mortgage, the unofficial mortgage broker to the Weirds of Portland. To discuss mortgages in Oregon or Washington, you know what to do. And be sure to like, subscribe, and share this podcast so more people can find out how I'm finding my own weird.